What's up? What's up? Let me just look into a couple of things. All right, we're looking good. We're looking good. I'm gonna wait till the chat full up. I know for some of y'all, it's early in the States. Where I'm at is 4:45 p.m. So it's already afternoon. The reason why I'm doing the show a little earlier than usual and not waiting till the night because I got things to do during the evening. So I gotta finish this before 5:30 because I gotta be out by 5:30. Drop off my wife at her friend's house. Then I'm gonna go to the gym, and then come back, pick her up, get dressed ready because we're gonna go out tonight to a little party with some friends and stuff. So this is why I'm doing an early podcast and stuff. So good morning to everybody that's out there. I know it's Saturday. Some of y'all already started, woke up in the morning. Maybe some of you's already getting your game on. You're enjoying your day off, not working and stuff. No school, whatever you're doing, and you're just chilling, you know. Woke up in the morning, had some breakfast, do your thing, had your coffee, chocolate milk, vodka, whatever you do to kick off your day and enjoy it. You know, but I figure maybe some people, maybe a little bit more European participation, who knows? But definitely appreciate you guys showing up. Like I said, I always appreciate you guys because you could be doing anything in the world right now, but you're rocking out with me. Maybe you guys are gaming at the same time, but shout out to the chat. Always an awesome chat. I really love this community that shows up here. You guys are awesome. I love my mods that's out here. Y'all keep it clean. It's not really what the one thing I could say. This chat overall is not a very toxic chat. You guys overall, many of you have different preferences and platforms, but you all rock out pretty much. Yeah, you always have that few dudes that aren't regulars and they show up just to cause some shit, but you guys do a good job of, brush your shoulders off. Like, yeah, get out of here. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. But like always, if you don't mind, if you're watching this live right now, just hit that like button and spread this out to your favorite social media platform among the community and gamers so we could get this chat going, get everybody live. I'll talk about a couple of things. I'll start off with a little warm-up before I get into the lead topics about the developers and the concern over PS5 news. But SS9 plus Ultra, what's up? Rafe, what's going on? Spartan God, what's good? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Asmodeus Black, what's up? What's going on? Who's next? Appreciate it. Who else we got? Overdone, of course. My man breaking out the memes. Safe is out here. What's going on? Corey, Andrew, Ice Queen Gaming. What's up, girl? Manuel Arroyo. ¿Cómo está? ¿Qué tal? Andrew Wilkins, what's up? Xvalos. Who else we got up here? Raja. Xbox got no games. Xbox success. Jesus. The names that's coming out right here. Corey, I said coffee. What's going on? What else? We got D81, Sean Benjamin, Rome Rush, as always. Sam Walton was good. Jabali, what's up? Everything's moving up. Everybody little by little is joining the rooms and stuff like that. So I see the concurrent reviewers going up. But again, I would truly appreciate if you could hit the like button. And of course, my channel is not locked behind a paywall. All right, so just to warm up, I want to bring up my joke of SSD and PlayStation 5. So I made a joke on Twitter making fun of Series X slow SSD, based on the rumors and speculation between the two, whatever. So I made a joke of an old man running on the track, right? And what's funny, and I knew it was a joke, trash, nothing's confirmed, we don't know anything about it. But what's funny about the whole situation is how much butt hurt over that one joke in just a 3-day span that joke produced, right? That little troll bullshit shot it produced, right? It just clearly shows how the lack of self-awareness a lot of these dudes, a lot of people are on Twitter, a lot of gamers are. Because the same people that cried over that tweet. Again, notice the tweet was me joking using the old man. I didn't make a tweet saying, hey, it's confirmed. Xbox Series X has a slow speed. It will only be to this. Xbox Series X is lagging behind. Games are going to be ruined. I didn't make a serious tweet pushing confirmation, whatever. I just made fun of the situation, right? But the amount of butthurt over that tweet, you know, and it's funny, the replies from the people that got butthurt is, oh, this is not confirmed. You need to wait for confirmation, whatever, da-da-da, all this stuff, right? And those are the same people that already dead set are spreading news and telling everybody that Series X is 12 T-flops, PlayStation 5 is 9.2 T-flops. Power advantage Xbox. The same people that's already confirmed the specs and the performance of the PlayStation 5 and Series X, well, when it came to this particular news, oh no, we gotta wait for confirmation. You're just a fanboy spreading out fake news. And I'm like, yo, it just truly shows the bullshit that goes around in gaming news, which is why it's hard, especially on Twitter, it's hard to discern who's actually serious about gaming conversations and who's not, you know? And what's funny is a lot of social media content creators, the ones that are serious about gaming news, that is not fanboy, be nice, all that trash, they propagate the misinformation. No one across the board, any news should be taken with a grain of salt. Whether it's T-flops, SSD, you know, specific features of hardware ray tracing, VRS, all this stuff. Nothing is set in stone on who and why and how they're going to do it. Every news about the capabilities of these consoles, it should be taken with a grain of salt. No one should say, this is how it is. Because the only people that can say, this is how it is Sony and Microsoft. And they have not said that. They have not come out and straight up said, this is the performance metrics, this is the actual stats and measurements of what these consoles do. No one has absolutely said, this is the T-flop count, this is the speed count, the megahertz, the bandwidth. None of that information has been provided. So no one can say who does what, right? But what's funny is the people who are saying this is what, on one end, oh yes, confirm this is how it is, but on the other end, oh no, we need confirmation. Which is ridiculous, which is hilarious. That's, to me, is just the complete lack of self-awareness on this, right? But I'm going to tell you the one thing that is confirmed. I could confirm this, and this statement will always win any day of the week. No matter what the hardware specifications are between these consoles, the one who delivered the great games with what they got to work with will win out. Every day, twice on Sunday. There is no gen where hardware specifications produce the best consoles. Not one gen. Every console generation, the best console is the one with the best games, the best exclusives, the best, for lack of a better word, plan, or how the company wants to push their thing. And it's, you know, and it's a culmination of exclusives, the first party titles, the type of games they create, and the relationships they have with third party, trying to bring exclusive games from third party or time exclusives or content. That is what produces the best console. Period. All right. I could have the best kitchen utensils, pots, space age, the most advanced kitchen in the world. And you give Gordon Ramsay a backyard fire pit, a cauldron, pots, and a couple of tools, and salt and pepper. I could have all the best spices all around the world, right? But at the end of the day, none of that matters. What matters is when you get your plate of food, which one tastes the best. And chances are Gordon Ramsay is going to make better food with a fire pit and salt and pepper than I can on any day of the week with the best ingredients in the most advanced kitchen in the world. It's the skills, it's the talent, it's the vision to do what you're going to do with whatever performance that you have on the platform. It's simple, right? If you all remember when The Last of Us 2 was first revealed, right? Not the PlayStation one, the one where when they actually showed the full trailer of Ellie and she's fighting. Of course, the haters of PlayStation said, oh, that's not PlayStation 4. That's PS5 dev kit. That's talent. When a developer can make a game on a PlayStation 4 and people assume it's a PlayStation 5 game, that's all you need to know, right? So if there's one thing I'm always going to co-sign and I'm always going to double down on, it's the games that's being made. People could hype power all you want, but if the final result, if the meal that you're about to eat ain't the best tasting, then it doesn't matter what kitchen or what ingredients is used from, you know? And that's just my stand, you know? But I still found it funny how butthurt SSD. I mean, yo, what's even funnier, right? This is how lack of self-awareness some of these dudes have. This is what's crazy on the lack of self-awareness, right? My man, Double O Rain, or girl, I'm sorry, Double O Rain. You have a gender-neutral name, so I apologize. Don't want to insult you. Finally caught you live. Sup, P-Rock? What's up? What's going on? I'm glad you rocking out with me. Appreciate it. I apologize. Don't mean to insult you. Right? But back where I was saying, the SSD, and keep in mind, the joke or the tweet is only 2, 3 days, 4 days at the time when I made it. It was only a couple of days. And you got people now saying, oh, so we're talking about hardware and not about games, right? Or it's funny how we're talking about hardware now. I'm like, so something that's only 3, 4 days old, you're butthurt about. But the community that you're defending, they've been talking about hardware, I'm going to be honest, for over 2 years. Actually 3 years. Because the talk of hardware began before the release of the Xbox One X, right? When it was Project Scorpio. Putting Project Scorpio symbols, it's a monster, chip in your mouth, all this weird shit. 3 years of hardware talk. No games. No talk of games for 3 years, right? The Xbox One X is what? 2 years old? It came out in 2017, so a little over 2 years old. And you barely got 3 years out of it, and you're already talking, you know? So I just found it funny, the lack of, I just found it funny, the lack of self-awareness between the two, right? So it's just pretty funny. But anyway, so moving on, I think we got over 100 people. Please hit the like button. Thank you. We're going to talk about the first step. So let me set this up real quick so we can have a visual. And here we go. And survey says, boom, there you go. More developers interested in making PS5 games than other console, according to GDC Survey. So GDC is coming up in March, Game Developers Conference every March, and every year they have a survey on, and it's a year-to-year survey on what they're interested in terms of developing games, for that year, right? And so far, PS5 leads all consoles. PC platform during this survey always leads every single year. So let's get that out the way. As far as the overall gaming platform, PC has been like the number one, getting the most votes every single year. It's the most common platform all across the world. It's the most versatile platform all across the world. Due to its open nature, more people own PCs than consoles, whatever, right? And the level of game development is bigger and more expansive on PC because it's not just big AAA games and stuff like that, right? Or always online MMOs and stuff like that. It also includes Flash games and web browser games because that's also a big part of PC gaming. I know when we talk about PC gaming, PC gamers, we don't associate them with web browsers and web stream, web type games, right? We don't associate that. But from a developer perspective, you have lots of developers that make web browser games. That's their job. They make money. So you have to look at it from the perspective of the developer. You have developers that make web browser games, and they make a lot of money off that among the indie, single A, double A, triple A studios. So PC is very expansive when it comes to those type of titles. So PC will always win out as far as developer interest, just simply because of how many developers and the type of games that develop on PC. But what makes this year's I don't want to say unique. The hell is that? Unique. What makes this year unique or different is that we have a console launch year. So really, this type of survey only really happens every 5, 6, 7 years when new consoles are introduced, right? And this year, PS5 leads among all consoles, beating out PlayStation 4, beating out Switch, beating out Xbox One, and the Series X. The breakdown of percentages, and I will tell you right now, okay, so for all consoles, PlayStation 4 leads with 38%. So 38% of those who took the survey are showing that they have interest as a developer right now on that platform, okay? In comparison to Project Scarlet, you're talking 25%. So 25% of the people surveyed, of the developers surveyed, said they have interest, okay? Other platforms, PlayStation 4/Pro is 18%, Xbox One and One X 16%. So pretty much the PlayStation consoles in their own respective right with their competitor, right, leads developer interest. So PlayStation 4 and Pro, there's a little bit more developer interest. 5 over Scarlet, more developer interest. But what's interesting here is where Xbox has, I give them this, is on Project X Cloud, 11% of developers has interested as compared to PlayStation Now, where it only has 4%. So PlayStation Now is a very low remark, right? A very low interest, right? Interesting though, overall though, Google Stadia has 19% interest, right? So that's pretty interesting that Stadia has more developer interest than any other streaming service. I think, in my opinion, reason for that, and I'll just hit on that one real quick, is because Stadia, that's the only platform they have, is just their streaming service. They're not divided with consoles, native PC gaming, putting their games on the platform. It's just straight up Stadia. So I think developers might have more confidence in Stadia's plan, Google's plan for streaming, because that's the number one focus, is all in, as compared to Sony and Microsoft, where they're side projects. Now, I think Microsoft might put more focus effort in xCloud as compared to Sony's PS Now. It depends how that goes and stuff like that. Another interesting thing from the survey, 27% are interested in VR headsets. So that's really good news about that. When you think about it, that's actually more VR headsets. That's actually more than Project Scarlet. Now, to be fair with VR, VR is available on more platforms. You know, Scarlet is just the console itself. VR headsets, it's including PC and the PlayStation 4 and even phones, because even phones have headsets. So I got that, all right? My man Veggie says we need a whiteboard here. Man, my whiteboard's in North Carolina. You know, I'll probably buy a new one when I move to California. But everybody loved that video with the whiteboard where I had to break it down. But that's interesting, right? So now here's the thing. Here's the discussion behind developer interest. Why is it developer interest? Why? You know, how did PlayStation 5 already garner so much attention, leading the pack among all consoles? Again, PC, overall winner. There's no doubt about that. It's consistent, long traditions and stuff like that. But among consoles, when we already have PlayStation 4 Pro already established, when we already have Xbox One established, Switch, let me put down the Switch. I'm sorry for not even bringing that up. Nintendo Switch, 37%. So it's 1% below PlayStation 5. And that's a good key indicator, all right? Because this will lead into my discussion. Between PlayStation 5 and Series X and all these consoles, the developers know how to make games. You know, we're no longer in an age where console developers, back in the days before x86, they used to create unique architecture based on PowerPC, like the cell processor, the emotion engine, blast processing, all these unique architecture, unique CPUs that developers had to learn every time a console launched, right? And then, you know, as the developer got better and better, they made better looking games, but then a new console launched and they have to learn a totally different architecture. The days of developers learning architecture, new architectures are over. Sony, Microsoft, even Nintendo, they're using stuff that developers are familiar with, familiar tools, and it is what it is, right? So as far as the developer's perspective of designing games, it's all the same stuff. They really have the ability to make games on all platforms. Where it comes down to it is, this is not a charity. Developers want to make games ultimately, right? Sure, they love it. It's their hobby. They love making games. But love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't pay for food, rent, mortgage, car notes, sending their kids to school. It's a job. It's a career. They make money. So they're looking at the platforms that potentially make money. One guaranteed platform for them to make money is PC. PlayStation 5, with the mindshare PlayStation developed already, PlayStation has a brand that is huge and global. So they're banking on PlayStation 5 repeating what PlayStation 4 did. High selling consoles, higher user base, high active monthly users, over 1 billion games sold. They're predicting the same thing, that the console is going to repeat and do the same as previous consoles. Just a successful brand that sells a lot of games with a lot of users playing on it. There's a reason why Nintendo Switch still has 37%. High selling console, first party games sell a lot. They're hoping that they could take advantage of the momentum Switch has, right? Xbox brand, it's just a little bit of a stepping stone, you know? A lot of roadblocks, a lot of bad things associated with Xbox One, you know? It is what it is, you know? Sure, they could create an amazing brand, you know, powerful hardware, but if it doesn't sell the games. Maybe some developers aren't sold on Game Pass yet for their games. This could be a lot of things. Xbox has a lot more ground to catch up to, especially if they want to get on the same playing field with the mind share as PlayStation 5 and Nintendo. And I would say that's probably the biggest factor with developers, you know, the future growth, where they can make money. You know, it's not strictly, a lot of people think when developers think about making games, it's just strictly, oh, where can I make the best games? Oh, I'm all in on that platform. No. Sure, they want to make the best games. They want to develop amazing games, all right? But they got to pay bills, right? This isn't a side hobby. They're not doing this on their free time. This isn't, you know, charity work, all right? They're not donating their lives about that. Zero Rain, shut up, FN. It's all about the power, remember? Yeah, we seen how that turns out. Thank you for the super chat, right? Appreciate it, right? This is people. Sometimes I think a lot of gamers forget that these developers are working. They're getting paid, and this is their career, right? So selling their games and making money off it, just like any other company who makes a car, who sells food, clothes, sneakers, TVs, it's the same result. We're making this stuff to sell it to a consumer so the consumer can pay with their money and we get the check, right? And that's where it comes down to it, right? Couple of other things, you know, if you paid attention over the last 6 months or so, most of the news articles, when you hear a developer talks about this specific next generation platform and how good it is, most of them have been PlayStation 5. A lot of developers working on PlayStation 5 have came out and talked about the PlayStation 5, how easy it is to develop. Many of them came out and said that it's actually easier to make games on PlayStation 5 compared to PlayStation 4. Yoshida come out talking about how many developers are already happy and content with the PlayStation 5. A lot of conversation with PlayStation 5. You don't hear that much about the Series X. Maybe because they're still under NDA, or maybe they just got the kits and they didn't have it long enough. There could be a whole bunch of reasons. But right now, the social media momentum, the advertisement momentum, the mindshare momentum is clearly in PlayStation 5's corner. So all of that, what does all of that even mean for us PlayStation gamers? I will answer that question right after the super chat. Sleepy Lights, thank you for the super chat. Should I buy a PSVR now or wait for the next one? Interesting question. I will say this. It depends. I want to give you the best advice I could give you. Gameplay-wise, PlayStation VR works. The mechanics work. The camera tracks, you know, the PlayStation Move controllers. You know, the translation of what you do and what the game does works, right? Even the shooters, great shooters and stuff like that. I wouldn't say it would be great for competitive shooting because that's a whole new level of gameplay. But playing the game, beating the game, moving around, even something simple as Batman, which is an experience, right? You use the controller and it's like you're having his hands and you're piecing together things like Minority Report. And you piece them together, you're spinning around, look, it works. The technology works. The gameplay mechanics works. I played Rush of Blood where you have two pistols dual wielding and I could shoot the objects, right? And I could shoot it pretty good with precision. It doesn't feel off. It doesn't feel like there's a big hit detection. It feels good. The technology works. But I know the biggest problem. The biggest problem is, number one, people don't like wired headsets. I'm not going to say they're wrong. It doesn't bother me, but I understand in a world of Wi-Fi and being disconnected from cables, I can understand, right? So that's number one. And number two, and this is probably the biggest, is the graphics. The graphics is not there, all right? I totally understand. I'm playing on the PlayStation 4 vanilla, so the screen's a little bit blurry and fuzzy, right? You know, so I could tell, but I go past beyond that because I want the gameplay experience. You may not want that. The gameplay experience may be hindered by you seeing not so good graphics, right? So if you, and you got to be honest, this is the only question you can answer. If you know that you want a certain level of graphic fidelity to enjoy the game, then I say wait. All right. The gameplay works. It works. All right. If you're more gameplay than graphics, get it. It works. But if you want both, you want at least a decent level of graphics fidelity, then just wait. It's always going to be there, right? And hopefully Sony's smart that all the games are backwards compatible and you'll have a tremendous library of cheap games that will look better. Because one thing I was told is when you play PSVR on the Pro, it looks a little bit better. It looks significantly better on the game. So I can only imagine that the same logic, Sony's going to allow PS5 to do that, to enhance the games of PSVR and make it look better. So my advice to you, if you just interested in the gameplay mechanics, if you're interested in how VR works and what's the word? And how being immersed in the world and how putting that headset on just completely makes you feel like you're in that world and the mechanics, you know, you controlling works, then yes, get it. But if graphics is a big part and there's nothing wrong with that, then just wait, you know. I don't want the graphics to ruin the experience. That's the best advice I could give you. Technology-wise, it works. I was shocked, and the gameplay is amazing, and I love it. But I can admit the graphics aren't there. It doesn't really bother me graphically, right? But it may bother you, so that's a question you have to be honest about. Does graphics bother you? Does really blurry graphics bother you? If it does, then don't get it. Wait till they improve on it, and when then you do get it, you're going to see this is the real deal. This isn't Connect or any other bull crap, third party or aftermarket stuff we've been getting across the ages. VR is the real deal. It is the definitive aftermarket experience, right? Vedger, thank you for the super chat. It also comes down to how well firmware and hardware is optimized against each other. Therefore, the game optimization gets easier. Also, not to change too much of the source code from PS4 to PS5 firmware. Excellent point, right? But that's the best advice I could give you, right? You have to be honest with yourself. But I will tell you, the gameplay and the mechanics work. So don't worry about that. If you're concerned that the gameplay don't feel right, it works and it's fun. You just have to answer yourself on about the graphics part, right? And if you have a Pro, then you'll have better graphics than me and stuff, right? So anyway, so back to what I'm saying. Damn, what did I say? Because I got really involved in that one. You know, it just shows you how much I enjoy PSVR. In fact, I'm playing Death Stranding now, right? After I finish Death Stranding, I'm get back into PSVR and knock out a lot of games there. The one thing I will say, there's one more thing I have to tell you. And I'm looking forward to the next iteration of PSVR 2 headset, because the headset is also a TV, right? And what I mean by that is when you put on the headset and you boot up the PlayStation, right? You see the UI, right? Big. You know, you could scroll through settings, scroll through games. You could even actually play regular games, you know, on the VR as if you're just looking at a TV, right? And I did that with Days Gone, right? So I was playing Days Gone in VR. Again, graphically, it's blurry. You know, you pull off the headset and you look at your TV. Obviously, the graphic TV looks much better. But the reason why I did it is because you can adjust how big you want the screen was. So when I was playing it, it was like I had like an 85-inch TV. I mean, it was huge, huge screen, right? Right? I say that to say this. If the next VR headset produces fidelity of at least 1440p, right? Clear, crystal clear image, beautiful graphics, I would probably play most of my games using the VR headset. And the reason why is because when you have the headset on, the headset seals all light and stuff. So your peripheral vision, you don't see the room, right? It just completely blocks you out in that way, right? And the only thing you see is a black room and a TV screen. And that is very immersive when your peripheral vision has nothing to see, because it's like a black void. And the only thing you see is the screen itself, right? Very immersive. That's why I play Days Gone a little bit like that, because when you look at it and you don't see nothing else, and then you have your headset on, it's like you're in the gaming world. And that's a level of immersion that a lot of people try to bring. Are you guys familiar with the Philips Hue? Those little lights that you connected to your PC, and whatever the game shows, the lights mimic the game. So that way it looks like your whole, beyond the TV, beyond your monitor, the ambient light matches the game to give you more immersion. That's what they're trying to achieve. VR does that. You put the headset on, everything is black other than that big screen. If it displayed like beautiful 4K or even 1440p, clean, crisp image, oh my God. I would be playing that. Definitely single player games. I would just have that on. I'll be playing like that. I would just be playing because it is an amazing view. So I just wanted to add for that. Some super chats up in here. Let's see who go. My man, Sony profit $5, media bias. That's always going to be a thing. It is what it is, right? I saw Sean Benjamin. Porter, how would you feel about buying a base PS5 knowing that you're effectively just finalizing Sony's trial and error efforts for any flaws for the sake of the eventual slim model? Well, the slim model, to be honest, that's not even, great question. That's actually status quo, believe it or not. That always was like that, even before PlayStation 1. When Sega Genesis released the different versions of their master systems. Anytime a company releases a newer model, right? Same thing, right? The slim model, miniature model, whatever. They're taking lessons learned from the previous production. The production's cheaper, right? More efficient, better quality control, right? Less chance of defect, runs cooler usually, right? And they're able to sell at a cheaper price while making more money. So that's always the thing. You know, when you buy a launch console, you're getting what you're getting. High chance of being defective. There's a high chance of something going wrong. Even beyond the slim models, believe it or not, if you guys don't know, all these consoles, when they first launched, they have a specific model ID number. A year or two later, it looks exactly the same, but it has a different model ID number. Why? Because the guts, the inside changed. The manufacture process changed. It got more energy efficient, whatever, but you don't really notice. That's why a lot of people don't buy consoles day one. They wait a year or two because they want the newer updated model, even though it doesn't look like it. It's the same shell, same design. So that's always going to happen. And you buy a console day one launch, the console that comes out 2 years later, it's the same looking console, but that one has lessons learned, is better produced, better quality control. It's just an improvement hardware-wise over the previous one. So that's something you always going to have to deal with. That's why I recommend get that warranty. Is Ninja Theory overrated? I'm seeing dudes claim they're better or on the same level as Naughty Dog. Hint, these people use green body wash. I don't even listen to them when it comes to that. I'm not listening to them, right? Because most of you know who's been on my channel. You all saw my rant on Hellblade only selling 250K. And before I made that rant, I've been hyping Hellblade, and I even saw the developer diaries on what they wanted to do. Ninja Theory, for the longest, right, they made the decision that they don't want to have huge staff making big AAAs, one AAA games. What they're trying to do is smaller staff, right, for smaller projects, but with tools and all that stuff, make the best experience for these games to where they look like AAA games, or, you know, like Hellblade. Hellblade is clearly a AA game, but it is a beautiful game. It's an amazing game. The sound when you play with the headsets and the psychosis, it is a great game, no doubt. And that is what Ninja Theory is trying to do. Try to create games that aren't $60, because Hellblade, when it launched, it was $30. Create these great games, great experience, at a great cost to the consumer, and get it out there faster. They want to try to change game development and how games look, right? Microsoft buys Hellblade. Now everybody expects the world from them. Now they expect to be the next Naughty Dog for them, which is ridiculous. Number one, you guys don't really care about Ninja Theory. If you did, you would have known their vision that they're trying to do. You would have known about that, right? To me, I know what Ninja Theory is trying to do, right? And they're going to make great games, and I'm going to support their games on PC, because chances are they're not going to make PlayStation 5 games, right? Or anytime soon, right? Most likely it's going to be, obviously it's on PC, and that's why I'm going to play them, and I'm going to enjoy them, but I know what they're planning to create. These Xbox dudes, they're painting Naughty Dog, they're painting Ninja Theory and holding them to a standard that Ninja Theory is not trying to hold themselves. So they're going to be highly disappointed on what products Ninja Theory is going to make. If they want to be like, oh yeah, they're going to make big AAAs, that's on you. I know what they're trying to do, and I'm going to enjoy what they make for what they said they're going to make. You guys just want to talk shit, and in the end, it's going to bite you guys in the ass. If you guys hyping Ninja Theory is making big AAA games, that's a you problem. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're not setting us. You're not setting anybody else for failure, right? Not me. I already know what they're trying to do, so I'm gonna just leave it at that. Okay. I will highly suggest, if you're smart, if you're an Xbox gamer and you're not sure, go back to YouTube, go back to 2016, look up, go to their channel on YouTube. You know, Ninja Theory, they have a channel on YouTube. Go to videos, look at their stuff on Development Diary for Hellblade 1. They thoroughly explain how they want to build their studios and what they're trying to do overall for their studios, right? And that's probably the main reason why Microsoft purchased them, because they're not trying to be a big AAA studio where 200 people are working on one game. They're coming out with a lot of creative games. They're pumping out a lot of games, and they're all going to be quality games. And that's perfect for Microsoft and their vision for Game Pass. They could constantly release good titles and fill up Game Pass and constantly advertise Game Pass. That fits perfectly with what Microsoft wants to do. But some guys are creating expectations and standards that Ninja Theory is now holding themselves to. Right? So my best advice is stop listening to these podcasts or these Microsoft enthusiasts. Just go to Ninja Theory's channel. Look at the videos from 2016, even 2015, I think it goes back. And they're going to tell you exactly the vision of that studio. And that's all you need to see. Now, back to the game developers thing. All of that I talked about, interest. Why do we care about that? Well, if you're going to get a PlayStation 5, you could be at ease knowing that there's going to be a lot of developers that want to make games for this platform, right? There's potential because there's more developers interested in PlayStation 5 over Xbox. That gives Sony leverage to have conversations with these third-party developers. So you might see more games like Godfall where they launch first on PlayStation, right? Because I think Godfall is time exclusive. But there's potential that it could be not just time exclusive, but PS5, PC exclusives, right? And if you're a console-only gamer, right? That's the term being thrown around a lot, right? PC is impossible to play PC. There's no way I'm ever going to play on PC, right? So for you guys that will never ever, that rather die or get your eyes gouged than play on PC, and you're interested in a console, you might want to pick the console that gets more games, right? Backed by a company that's willing to do this. You know, a company that's willing to put more time exclusives on a console or fight for all our exclusivity between PS5, or not even exclusivity, make it PS5 PC only. Well, you might want to put that as a consideration, and that right there leads to it. The second part I'll talk about, right? You know, before I talk about the second part, people already the rumors. I'll hit on that real quick. And Ice Queen Gaming hit on it. PR77, do you think Sony will buy Bluepoint and Remedy? So that's the next conversation. Rumors of studio acquisitions, right? There's potential now for all these companies to start considering buying more and more studios if there's preparation for the ecosystem war, right? And if you have an ecosystem war, you cannot rely on third party to help you with that ecosystem war, because major third parties are not going to care about ecosystems because they worry about their own ecosystems. And many of them are creating their own ecosystems. For example, EA has, Origin and EA Access. That's technically a subscription service ecosystem that they created for themselves, where especially EA Origin or Origin Access, they have the Prime, whichever the major one, I think it's like $20 a month. You can play all EA games brand new day one on EA, on Origin, right? So even then, that's a subscription service. What if Activision did that? What if Activision creates, well, it won't going to work for them because their biggest sales is from consoles. So they're not going to create a subscription service where you can only play Call of Duty through a subscription. That will probably, Sony and Microsoft will probably be like, how we get money out of this then, So I don't think Activision is going to do that on console, but they'll definitely do that on PC. They could potentially be like, hey, we're going to create, Activision Pass, and you can play all Activision. So in a battle of subscription, Microsoft, Sony, and potentially Nintendo, if they don't get on the board, you have to build your first party portfolio, right? So Remedy, Bluepoint, House Marquee, and Kojima Productions, they're very key in the sense that these are single player experience, cinematic storytelling studios. So they would fit PlayStation's portfolio on what they're known for. You know, they would enhance the overall image of providing those great single player experiences and storytelling, right? So that's it. I'll start out with Kojima. I don't know if Kojima would want to work for Sony in the sense that he falls under Sony, because then at that point, is he allowed to make PC games day one? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would think a guy who's been falling under a publisher for so long, aka Konami, now that he has freedom, that he will want to maintain that freedom. But with that freedom comes with a price. You have to find the money. For example, if Kojima wants another project and Sony goes, hey, yeah, we don't want that. We don't like that idea of game you're making. So yeah, we're not gonna back you. But good luck with that. Now what does Kojima do? Does Microsoft help out? Does he have the money himself to fund everything, to pay his people, whatever? Or does he have to rely on another publisher, right? Those are things independent developers have to consider, which is why after Insomniac agreed to fall under Sony, it opened my eyes on how hard these developers have it, because Insomniac made a lot of games and course like that. But now they said, you know what? We're going to work under Sony. So it just opened my eyes that anybody who's not a big publisher already, you know, if you're an individual dev out there, not signed by a publisher, it's hard in those streets. So I can see this potential. I can see if it's really that hard, Kojima could bite the bullet. I can see Remedy biting the bullet. You know, if it's really hard to get the projects they want, I can see House Marquee biting the bullet. But it may not necessarily be Sony. It could be a third party. It could be Activision. It could be Ubisoft. It could be Tencent. It could be there's a lot of publishers out there that want to buy. Could be Google. What if Google did it? What if Google bought Kojima Productions, House Marquee, Bluepoint, and Remedy? That's noticeable. People will take notice on that. Making Google Stadia exclusives, you know? Sleepy Lights, all right, peace, about to get some sleep. All right, I don't know where you at. I don't know if you have night shift or if you're in Japan and stuff, but hey, good night, brother. Good night. You know, but I would say those key studios, Bluepoint, Remedy, Kojima Productions, House Marquee, they are single player studios, right? They vary on projects. House Marquee's the indie side, right? So they'll definitely work close with Yoshida. Remedy, AAA, AA level type games, right? But they're single player. Fit Sony's MO. Kojima, they've been having a great relationship since the PS1, right? So it's possible. I don't know. It's possible and stuff like that. Vedger, I hope Sony at least sell their games on PS Now on PC, not devaluing their own ecosystem by paying third-party publisher 30% for their sellout brand. I will say this, all right? And I talked about this in another podcast, right? I mean, two streams ago, my stream of what PlayStation fans expect out of Sony versus PlayStation fanboys, whatever. And please don't say I'm calling you a fanboy. But I think the focus is not so much devaluating the brand, right? And I think when we use those terms, when we talk about devaluating the brand, people might confuse that as cheering for a corporation. You know what I'm saying? People might take that as, oh, you just care about the corporation. I think the true message we PlayStation fans need to send is we want what we always had, for Sony to use their first-party developers to focus on that platform. So if we have a PlayStation 5, we want to know that that's what the developers are focusing on. That they don't have another PC kit for the eventual multi-plat port. They don't have a PS4 dev kit for cross-gen scaling. That these guys, they take the PlayStation 4 dev kit, threw it in the trash. And, you know, even though Gorilla does have Decima fully compatible PC, we just want to know that when they make the games, it's all on PlayStation 5. It's taking advantage on PlayStation 5. They're focusing on adjusting their tools to the merit of the PlayStation 5. And after they're done making their first PlayStation 5 game, they learn lessons. They have lessons learned. They come up with ideas like, damn, we should have done this. Oh, man, I didn't realize PlayStation 5 was able to pull this out. Oh, man, we have a new technique. Oh, man, if we use these new tool sets, all the conversation is garnered towards the PlayStation 5. So when they make their next PlayStation 5 game, it's even better. You just, you know, all out, get the most you can with the platform. I think that's the message we need to send as PlayStation 5, potential PlayStation 5 owners. Can you do this for us? Because we're giving you money for a specific platform. If Sony advertises PlayStation 5 as simply the best version of their games, meaning best version of games that's available on PS4 because of scaling, well, you can do that on PC. PC scales, and chances are year over year, PC will scale better than the PlayStation 5 because PlayStation 5 is a static box. It's not going to have more powerful hardware year over year. PC does that as long as you're willing to pay for it. So if it's all about scaling and getting the best versions, then just let me know, because I'm going to pick the platform that does scaling the best. If we're going to talk about scaling, I'm going to get the platform that does scaling the best, if that's what the conversation is about, right? But if I'm going to get a PS5, I want to know that those first-party developers, that's all they're focused on. That's their intent, all right? Now, people could be like, well, Portorock, you just talked about developers making money. Well, they work for Sony. Sony pay them. You know, Sony, as long as Sony is paying them and giving them great salaries, those first-party developers aren't truly, I'm in there. Those first-party developers aren't truly impacted. Those first-party developers aren't truly impacted by the sales of the games other than future projects. But whatever game they made, they're getting paid because they're first-party. The question is, do they keep getting paid? Do they keep making big projects if the project flopped? That's really the question. That's the advantage I would say first-party developers have. They get paid for their project. It's just the future projects where they comes into question, you know? But Sony, to put their games on PS Now, it would raise engagement on PS Now. I could understand that. My only question is this, though. Is PS Now based on PS5 hardware? If the game, I will have to look more into that. But let's say if they put the games day and date on PS Now, but the PS Now servers are PS4 level hardware, then wouldn't that be the same as scaling and making the games on the PS4? And that's my concern. What I would like to see is if PS Now, right now, the servers that they have cannot run PS5 games that are built from the ground up, or you have to do, you know, scaling, whatever. I, as a PS5 consumer, prefer, build the game for PS5, then later on put the PS5 games on PS Now as you improve the capabilities for PS Now servers, you know, whatever they do, to meet the demands of PS5. In other words, build PS Now to meet the capabilities of PS5, then put the games. But I don't want the games capable to run on PS Now when PS Now is on the level of a PS4 or PS4 Pro. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's the same thing. You're worrying about PS4. I don't want these first-party developers to worry about PS4. Don't worry about nothing. No Jaguar cores, no Polaris architecture, no 5 gigs of RAM. Go all out from the ground up. That way, you're not even thinking about, man, did we make a mistake? Because PS4 might not do this, and we kind of screwed ourselves. No, don't even worry about that. Don't worry about the PS4. It's over. Doesn't matter if it could scale. Don't even worry about scaling. Just make the PS5 game and move forward. Don't look back. Move forward. And that's my thing. I got some super chats here. Thank you so much. Let me scroll down.
What's going on, Peter?
Who we got here? You got Cold Yogurt. Let's see. Big screen VR is coming to PSVR. You can watch movies with other online people and hang out the lobby. VR is more than just gaming. Xbox is clueless. You know, VR is getting into that future too, where you could watch pay-per-view events on that one. That's going to be huge, right? Rain, thank you so much. I'm okay with PS exclusives going to PC years after the fact. Day and date though, nope. And where's this smoke for Nintendo exclusive going to PC? You're not going to get that. That's why I don't really pay attention about the PC thing and all that stuff. Simply because no one's arguing for PC exclusives to go to consoles. And PC has a lot of exclusives that are exclusive to PC. No one flips out on the developer that says, oh yeah, we're going to make a new PC game. Oh, how come you're not making it for consoles? No one flips out. And same thing with Nintendo. Nobody flips out on Nintendo that they don't put their games anywhere. Sure, they make phone games, but those are unique projects. But you're not going to play Super Mario Odyssey on a phone or on a PlayStation or on PC unless you get that emulator, right? So for studios, all these companies, Google, Sony, Microsoft, I could see them all trying to purchase studios. Now, what I don't see is the big ones. people talking about Take-Two and Konami and Sega, Capcom. Stop it. Those publishers are actual big publishers. They're not just developers. When you're talking about Take-Two, you're not talking about developers. You're talking about an actual publisher. When you talk about Capcom, see, Remedy, they're not a publisher. They're an individual developer. Even Kojima Productions is an individual developer. But Capcom is a publisher. Konami is a publisher. Sega is a publisher. Take-Two is a publisher. And they have big developers under them. Whole different animal. Huge, lots of money. Those guys aren't being sold unless something drastically bad happens. What's next? I don't think you truly understand how games are created. Sony hardware will be the common denominator. So first-party games come into PC. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I just want to see Sony actually make the announcement. Just say it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Everybody gives their opinion on Twitter. I'm giving my opinions. But individually, when it's all said and done, I'm going to make my decision based on what the company is advertising and selling, right? Sony needs to say it. Microsoft said it, right? It's no longer a conversation or a talking point. Microsoft straight up said, hey, we're putting our games day one on PC. We're putting our games on Steam. That's an option. That's a choice. So then, cool. If that's an option, that's a choice. You do what you got to do, and then, there's no harm in that, right? There's no harm in that happening, right? But other than that, I'm just waiting for Sony to actually tell us their vision, right? They're either going to tell us games are day and date, they're supporting PC day one, whatever, or they're not going to do it. And we just have to wait for that, right? The final part is PlayStation 5 news, right? And that's going to be the big one, right? The lack of news I'm noticing on Twitter, there's two sides of it. There's people concerned, why come Sony ain't saying anything? They're very quiet, and people are using that. Some people are using that to advantage to show that PlayStation 5 is in trouble, which is weird. And then there's people who are agitated or impatient, and they're using that as a feeling of something's wrong with PlayStation 5, because if nothing was wrong, Sony would say something. I don't know how either side could come to that conclusion when the reality is this, right? And this is the reality. PlayStation 5 is releasing in November. So PlayStation 5 news in February or PlayStation 5 news in May is the same thing because it doesn't come out till November. It doesn't matter when the news comes out because it's going to be before November. We could get news in PlayStation 5 in February. You ain't getting the console till November. Or you get PlayStation 5 news in May. You still can't play the console till November, right? So the reality is, whenever the news breaks out, it's before November. There's nothing you can do, right? So the whole when the news break out has no correlation to whether the platform's in trouble or not, because the platform's not coming out till November. So sure, you got PlayStation 5 news in February. Now what? You're not playing it till November. Hell, you probably won't even be able to pre-order it till like August. There's no difference. February, March, April, May, hell, even June, none of us got the console till November. So the reality is PlayStation 5 or any console news is going to come before November, and that's the reality. There is no advantage or disadvantage of spending news in February versus news in May. There's no advantage or disadvantage in terms of how the process is. It's all coming out November, right? And that's all I want to leave off. It's already 5:37, 5:38 actually, so this podcast got a little over. I'm sorry to cut it short, but I got to get going. That's probably why my wife opened up the door. But with that said, hey, I want you to ponder that. That's the last thought I want you to think about. Doesn't matter when you get the PlayStation 5 news, because at the end of the day, none of us are going to be able to play it till November anyway. So February or May, March, April, in between, whatever. No difference. It's all before November, okay? And that's what you need to think about. With that, I got to get going. This is your boy, Porter Rock 77. Thank you so much for rocking out with the streams. On your way out, if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button, and I truly appreciate it. For the people in the super chat, thank you so much for supporting the channel. For everybody else that had questions and conversations, thank you so much for being an amazing chat. This is your boy, Porter Rock 77, your only friend in these YouTube streets, and I'll catch you next time with another live stream, all right? You take care. Peace.